Learn what it means to truly find your footing within your own health creation journey as Ameris of Loving Consciously shares her powerful experience through loss of all choice to true sovereign power. Honor yourself, celebrate your strength, empower your transformation with your Yin-care. This is the Yin-care podcast, and I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin-care's herbal wash. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. So get your hands on some Yin-care's herbal wash today. That's YINCARE.com. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin-care. Are you wondering how in the world to detach from the Western medical industrial complex system? Wondering if it is at all possible? Look no further. This excellent, fun, and deeply powerful interview I have with Ameris could likely blow your mind on your own inner capacities for healing. If this show inspires you to make any changes in your life, pause right there, leave me a 5-star review, like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and even leave us a comment. It takes less than 5 seconds. Then head on over to yincare.com and sign up for our womb empowerments. Discover us on Instagram at yin_care or on X, Facebook, or YouTube at Yin-care. That will help you connect with all of our Yin-care community and learn about everything going on. And now, here's the episode for your listening and viewing pleasure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yin-care podcast. I am your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising, and this is the third in our burgeoning series of podcasts, specifically addressing our guests' sovereign health choices. The Sovereign Health Choice series explores women and potentially men who are willing to share their bold choices, where the Western industrial medical complex directed them to receive certain protocols, treatments, or medicines, and these courageous souls chose to listen to their own inner guidance and take a different course of action. Oftentimes, these choices have been in the face of both resistance from the medical professionals who stand steadfast behind their recommendations with threats of death running rampant, or from family and friends who are incredibly uncomfortable with personalized, intuitive choices that go against a Western medical practitioner or systems advice. Our guest today has done just that. Her own health creation journey has influenced her profoundly, and I'm so excited to have you hear her story. Ameris reverently serves as a spiritual guide, metaphysical minister, and shaman. She has lived a powerful life of the extremes of both suffering and beauty, ultimately alchemizing it all to guide others in returning home to God and love. Through uplifting consciousness, grace, love, and healing, she supports others along their journey in embodying sovereignty, truth, and unconditional love. Additionally, Ameris is a spiritual, metaphysical, ordained minister, which is without denomination, non-religious, and she is on a powerful preconception journey preparing for motherhood. She and her husband have been together for 9 years and have created and developed a shared ministry and community, as you can all check out in their Loving Consciously podcast. All right, without further ado, welcome, Ameris. It's so great to have you.
Hi, Margaret. Thanks so much for having me. I was already getting emotional in this intro, so I can't wait to see what's going to come through here.
Yay, I'm so happy. So just to let everybody know, Ameris and I met under Z Earth Star's womb container and as part of the Earth Star Academy. So you just got back from the Grail Quest trip, correct? Where you guys were anchoring in the new family, like sacred family unit, correct?
Yeah, Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, we got back from Portugal. We were actually there for 12 days. We
Uh-huh.
stayed afterwards to explore the country. We did a road trip of the entire country after the event. But yes, my husband and I, who are actually celebrating our 9-year anniversary this coming month, went on this, divine union grail quest to really explore a lot of this ancestral healing and deeper womb healing and connecting with the souls of our children. So it was a really transformative time.
That is so cool. And I mean, I just think it was I have access to the coursework. I didn't actually listen to all of the classes yet, simply because of timing, et cetera. It wasn't going to work out for me. But I just love that this whole thing was done so powerfully in that location, as well as just the bringing in this idea of really strengthening and creating this sacred family unit once again that is so worthy of that loving energy.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like one of the most important things I'll ever do, right? Like
Mhm.
motherhood and stewarding, these really highly evolved souls that are coming down. And this leads perfectly into our topic today around, medical sovereignty and just sovereignty in general, because, reclaiming that for myself, like I'm also reclaiming that for my daughter and her daughter and
Exactly.
all of the women that come after us, even if we don't have our own descendants. And men as well. This, it's not just
Yeah.
gender, but really truly, the women, we have the womb space. Like we have this creator space, and just that the journey of reclaiming that has been one of the most transformative things I've done in my path. And so I'm just really, to be honest, just honored to be alive right now, honored to be able to do this work. As we'll get into my story. It's been
Cool.
a long journey, and there were many times where I couldn't have ever imagined being alive right now, and
Wow.
just lots of gratitude.
Oh, that's, yeah, absolutely. And so I would love to just start with your initial portal to your healing journey. And I know you've had a lot of experiences in your young life that will likely surprise our audience. And I'll let you just kind of flow with however you'd like to introduce your journey. But if you can definitely incorporate maybe the hard interfaces you may have experienced with a medical system or practitioners that had different advice for you or how you should manage your issues, and just include outsiders' opinions as well, family, friends, onlookers, and what they had to say. That would be awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for the space. Yeah, so I had a very, I guess you could say, sickly childhood. And so,
Mm.
I just was sick a lot. I had chronic bladder infections, chronic strep. I actually had MRSA when it was like the scary thing. I was
Mhm.
quarantined in the hospital and had a couple surgeries from that. And so I just growing up had a lot of experience in the medical system. And I had, family members who to this day are just devout followers of this system. And
Mhm.
it was so interesting. Like I was looking at vaccine schedules, and there wasn't a single vaccine on the list that I hadn't had. I'd had the HPV
Wow.
vaccine, I'd had the pneumonia vaccine, I'd had the shingles vaccine, like you name it. That's just what we did in my family. You go to the doctor every 6 months. You just take all the things they recommend to you. And so that was the programming that I came into my journey with, was
Mhm.
just do what the doctors say. And this is just a normal part of your life. Like you don't miss a checkup, you don't miss a dentist cleaning. You say yes to all of the shots and the tests and the things. And I also had, and I'm saying had because I'm choosing to believe that I can heal this and have healed this. This was something I was working on in Portugal. But I was born with a blood disorder. And
Mhm.
me, I was extra in the medical system because every 6 months I would get blood work. My
Wow.
hemoglobin and
Mhm.
basically my red blood cells were deformed. And so the way that I created and carried oxygen and hemoglobin in my body was brought down. And so this looked like anemia and, chronic fatigue, bruising,
Mhm.
just different things. And so I had a, pretty light journey with it. My mother's journey was much more difficult than mine. But so that
Mhm.
kind of leads me up into, also just having like a really challenging, chaotic, traumatic childhood, just a lot of
Mhm.
movement. And so when I was 19, I actually began my addiction. And I had a really extreme in a short amount of time 2-year addiction that actually ended in intravenous meth and heroin use. And so
Wow.
that led me into prison.
Oh
And
my goodness.
important for several reasons, but being in prison, I got to experience something that, not many people experience, too many people, but not many statistically, in actually having my sovereignty taken away from me.
Right.
And being in a place where when you go into prison, for example, when you first move onto the yard, they put you in a maximum security yard and you have to go through a 2-week medical quarantine, and they poke and prod. You have to get a bunch of vaccines, pap smears, tests, different things. And they take pictures of like your whole body, all your tattoos. And so it's a very medicalized process of, bringing you into the system, and you don't have a choice. Like you can opt out, and you will just spend your entire time in prison in a 23-hour lockdown.
Wow.
So it was a really interesting experience that I think implanted something that would come to fruition later, of showing me what happens when you don't have a choice. And it kind of planted that seed of, oh, I do have a choice on the outside. Even though I wasn't ready for that yet, I definitely see that. And so when I got out, which was a little over 9 years ago, I met my husband shortly after, and, just went on this really, really profound healing journey. It hasn't stopped. It's been, it's been a lot, and it was much more mental healing, and then it was physical healing. And then my spiritual journey started about 5 years ago. And, I experienced it, all through this journey of healing. I'm now in recovery. And, something that you mentioned that is really powerful in my story is the fear, right? Like I had it ingrained in me, like, you're going to need to get HIV tests for like X amount of years because it can be dormant. And so I literally lived for years of my life. I lived years of my life, like actually believing, I've been clean for years, like HIV was going to creep up and not be dormant anymore in my body. And so constantly getting tests and blood tests, and waiting for that 2-year mark. I think it was 2 years, they said, where I wouldn't be thinking I might, still have this dormant disease for my addiction. So yeah, just a lot of fear. I had extreme use of antibiotics, and I just was always told, like, you're gonna die of an infection, you're gonna die of sepsis. And so there was a profound amount of fear in my body, and I share that to lead us into, I think, what's going to kind of really be a key part of this conversation today. So this would have been coming up on 4 years ago. So this was 2021. I had a really, really challenging year. I lost my father, and we had several other losses in our family. And later that year in our healing journey, we had decided to conceive for the first time. And we did. We conceived our daughter. And that pregnancy and that process was what woke me up to this system, truly, because it was a nightmare. And, I really want listeners to know I share these things now from a empowered state and a grateful state. Like, I wouldn't change anything. I'm not a victim. This all happened for me. It happened perfectly. I truly believe, like, we choose these things to help us learn. And so it all, in retrospect, happened exactly as it was meant to. And in the time that it was happening, it was human torture. So I found out I was pregnant. And right from finding out I was pregnant, I was telling the doctors, I was like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Like, I wasn't super, super deep in touch with my intuition at that time, but I'm a woman, and I just knew something was wrong. And I was having pain on my one of my ovaries, and they just shrugged me off for like a good 6 weeks. Like, oh, it's just pregnancy pain. Oh, it's just implantation pain. This is normal. Pain's normal. And I'm like, no, like, something is wrong. Well, come to find out, on my first ultrasound, I had actually had I had my first ultrasound, and they actually found I think it was like 2.5 inches. 2 inches was the surgical size cyst on my ovary. And so I had this like blood-filled cyst in my ovary that was, it was getting pushed on my intestines, and it was excruciatingly painful. And I'd been telling them,
oh my gosh,
this probably hurts. I'm like, yeah, I've been saying that it hurts. And so fast forward through this process, at my second ultrasound, they could no longer find the baby's heartbeat. And pretty much from that moment,
And how many weeks was that? Sorry.
I don't remember exactly. It was maybe between 8 and 10. They
Okay.
were really unsure of where I was
Right.
because, yeah, the baby wasn't forming as expected, I guess.
Right.
And
Right.
that moment, like, I have this photo, and it's interesting because I labeled this photo as I never thought that the happiest moment of my life 5 seconds later would also be like the hardest moment of my life.
Mm.
And just the way that the ultrasound tech handled it, it was so cold. It was so
Mm.
just no big deal. And that just kicked off this
So,
really,
so like when you say that, what happened? Like what actually transpired in that
yeah.
moment?
Um, I mean, in that moment, I mean, I knew something was wrong. Her
Right.
energy, her face. Now, mind you, this is in the height of COVID, right? And so
Okay.
we've got masks on. You're
Oh
only allowed to
God.
have one person in the appointment. I mean, this is the height of 2021. And
Right.
so, yeah, it just, to be honest, like really just neutral, cold. I'm seeing some things. I need to go talk to the doctor. Wait here. And leaves
Okay.
me in this room for like 15 minutes, and they come back, and there's like no bedside manner, of like,
Hmm.
how would you emotionally and spiritually approach this with a woman who's already shared with you, like, this is our first pregnancy, we've had this hard year, we're so excited. And it
Right.
just was a very, to be honest, short, blunt, matter of fact, we we're labeling this as a loss, like we can't find the heartbeat anymore, we don't think that this is a viable pregnancy. Here's your options, you should talk to your OB. And we're just in shock and looking at each other, and I'm sobbing and
What
just,
the heck? That's terrible.
have a nice day, and just walks out and kind of leaves us in there in this state. And from that point, I have never experienced anything like what I experienced. So I chose, and I call it intuition. I mean, that's definitely what I think that it was. But
Mhm.
everyone, the ultrasound techs, the OB, my doctor, and I had a kind of like naturopathic doula I was seeing on the side, and everyone was like, just get the DNC, get it over with. It's no big deal. This happens to one in four women. Like, it's just get it out, get it over with, so you can try again. And here I am, like, I've had an attachment to this child. Like, she
Right.
has a name. Like, I know it's my daughter, and so
Right.
just experience this coldness around this. And then immediately it shifted into the fear mongering. And it was, technically the baby, they didn't call it baby, of course, technically the
Right.
embryo, or whatever they wanted to call it, to medicalize it and dehumanize
Hmm.
it, is not viable, is what they would say. And so
Right.
by leaving it inside of you, you are risking your life, because you could get sepsis, you could get an infection, you could bleed to death, you could hemorrhage. And so right from the get-go, they were like, our advice is to just take this out. And, that right there fundamentally is already not encouraging women to listen to their bodies, not allowing nature or God's plan to happen as it's
Exactly.
intended.
100%.
That we are, I'm just going to speak freely, that humans are so arrogant as to think that a doctor or a book or a medical complex knows what the human body needs. Here I am 4 years later, and I am still in this womb healing container you and I were in, still doing healing around having that scraped out of my body, and the spiritual and physical scars that
Oh my
causes.
gosh.
And so, yeah, I chose to say, no, thank you.
But
And
yeah, I just wanted to point out too that, like, I mean, they you know, it's not just that they are arrogant, or that there's an arrogance around it. Um it's that people are really uncomfortable with,
Mhm.
um well, they've totally taken the power away from the mother, right? I mean, it should be the mother's choice, and they should be asking, what is it? How would you like to handle this? This is your, this is your body. This is your baby. Like, it's important. It's important for your life and for your future conception that this be handled in a gentle, loving manner, so that you can continue on, as opposed to, this medicalization of it or whatever. But and they don't, they don't allow, and women are not really able to step into, and understandably so, mind you, because of how we've been just programmed and brainwashed and traumatized to accept this system, right? That's there, but that we aren't able to necessarily stand in our own power around that and say, and know what's right for us. It is what a mother is meant to do. Is the mother is in charge of that baby, from whether or not the baby lives or dies, and it really bothers me too. I just want to put this little seed in there, that everything about that I hear in the birth space that I'm involved in is all about, as long as the baby comes out, you have a happy baby in the bassinet, like everything's good. And it's like, that's not true. It's like, as long as the experience is honored for what it's meant to be, as long as the experience, and the only one who knows what that experience is going to be is the mother,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And I agree with everything that you're saying. And I'm so encouraged to see this time that we're living through, where, natural birth and free birth and home birth and just alternative ways of approaching pregnancy. And most importantly, what we'll get into in my journey now is now preconception, right? Because back then, preconception was, I want to have a baby, let's get pregnant. And now I have all of this conscious awareness of what it takes to prepare a body for that, because that is severely lacking in our society, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So it basically ended up being from the time, so I did all the HCG, they were like, I was not willing to accept their answer as it looks iffy, we're just going to call it. That's basically what they said. And I said, no, I don't accept iffy. And so it was 2 weeks of, the HCG blood tests, and then going in and doing 2 more ultrasounds. And then I was like, okay, I'm able to accept this now. It started to not only not progress, but regress backwards. And so I was like, okay, I've accepted this now. I can start grieving, and I trust my body. And so I went home, and I basically proceeded to lay on the couch for 8 more weeks into the beginning of the second trimester with this cyst, which ended up rupturing.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about full out of body experience. That pain dropped me to the ground. And so it started bleeding into my abdomen, which was causing more pain. But so I'm laying there with this cyst and, going through this miscarriage process, and my body just wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't ready to let her go yet. And so right around the 14-week mark, right around there, I got COVID. And I definitely want to preface and say, the tests that, I got sick, and whatever tests they were using to claim to see something that I'm not really sure is there, but I got COVID. And so I had a really
did you have, yes, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, did you have the symptoms and stuff like that? Loss of taste and smell and everything. Then you were clearly sick. I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I honestly just had a fever. And of course, you can imagine now, here I am for almost 10 weeks additional, right? So here I am, I'm completely ignoring their medical advice. At this point, I've stopped talking to anybody but my kind of naturopath doula. And, she's texting me, she's checking on me, and I get COVID, I get a fever, and they do the test and I get COVID. And that was all they needed, right? To just, when I tell you, the fear mongering became so intense, they actually told me, you are actively risking your life at this point. This is, it felt very much like, I don't really know what they could do, but there was just this energy around, we feel that you're no longer making sound decisions for your life.
Wow, you're kidding me.
You're choosing to not live if you do this, basically. And they coordinated with the hospital, and they were like, you need to get to a hospital, meaning you need to get this baby out. We have no way of knowing if this fever is related to COVID or if this fever is related to, you now have sepsis and you're going to die in 24 hours. And, it's really interesting because at the time, I think that I was just done. I was just done. I was exhausted. And so I caved. And that also led to crazy experience of they actually wouldn't allow my husband into the hospital with me because I had COVID. I was labeled as a COVID patient, so I was quarantined. He had to drop me off to go have this D&C and then pick me up after the fact. And so I'm alone in the hospital with this fever, finally having this process done at 14-ish weeks. And the whole thing was a nightmare. And as a person in recovery, I actually have had, because I don't identify as in recovery anymore, but at the time, I have medical directives in my files. So there's big red bars across the top that says, opiate recovery, do not prescribe. And this, all my doctors knew this. And it's really crazy because as they were putting me under anesthesia to do the procedure, the anesthesiologist was standing on this side and saw one of my recovery tattoos and asked about it. And I said, oh, yeah, I have, at the time, I think I had 5 years. I have 10 now. So 6 years, something like that. Clean. And, I literally said, did they tell you that? Like, don't prescribe me, any narcotics. When I actually ended up going home, there were two experiences. Right before I had to go home, this nurse comes in, and I mean, I'm in shock. Like, if there's a state of shock that a woman can be in, I've just had this procedure done. I'm waking up. I'm alone in a cold, dark room. My husband's not here, and I'm accepting my pregnancy is over now. And it's just like, I went to sleep and now it's done. And, you go home and this nurse comes in to check on me. And she literally, without telling me what she's going to do, pulls up my gown and pulls the pad out from, down there. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I need to check and make sure that you don't have any bleeding so we can discharge you. And it just is super crazy.
So the procedure were they doing anything about the cyst that had burst, or they were just doing the D&C, or both? Do you even know?
So because the cyst had already ruptured, it was resolving on its own. And so it's no longer surgically operable because it's now leaking the fluid. And so it's now in a healing state. They definitely tried to push the surgery on me as well, but that's never going to happen.
Right.
And so, yeah, I go home and we're in the car ride home. It's the middle of the night. It was actually my husband's birthday and Thanksgiving. His birthday falls on Thanksgiving sometimes. And we're driving home at I don't even know what time it was, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I start looking at my paperwork and there's a prescription for 120 oxycodones, which is first of all, an ungodly amount of narcotics. But to just have so blatantly this medical directive, I told the anesthesiologist, I told the doctors, all my team knew, and to send a woman who's in recovery and has just undergone this incredibly traumatic experience home still with narcotics.
That's insane.
It is insane. And that's not the only time that happened to me. I had many cases in my recovery journey, numerous, where I was either offered or prescribed narcotics against medical directives. So, that's a whole other podcast episode that's not this.
Wow.
But long story short, I start my healing process, and this was the catalyst. This woke me up. Our daughter came down. This was all planned to really kickstart our journey and to really kickstart me into, reclaiming my womb and doing this womb healing. This brought me into my womb, a place that I had no connection to before. And so it was all perfect. And since then, so it's been almost 4 years now, I have not had a single vaccine. I have not had one single external medication into my body. This includes Tylenol, antibiotics. I do not put anything that is not of the earth into my body. And so I've done, 4 years now almost of detoxing and clearing these and learning natural medicine and learning all of these different things. I've not had health insurance for years. I haven't been to a doctor in years. And so it's been really potent time. And in this time, I've actually had several really intense experiences of, I guess you could say, medical emergencies, where I got to walk through that now with my sovereignty. And so if we get into that, we can definitely get into that.
I definitely want to hear that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, the first one was I had God was telling me, go get your mercury fillings out, go get your mercury fillings out. And I just wasn't listening. And it got louder and louder until one day, the only way I can explain it is the fear of God and a voice not kind of suggesting it and saying like, do this now. And I called a naturopath. I was in Sedona at the time. I called a naturopath. They got me in like the next day, and I go in and they did the scan of your face, which most dentists don't do. And people don't realize x-rays are not showing you anything. That's like looking at the skin and not seeing what's going on beneath. And they found a severely infected cystic root canal that had been there for somewhere between 5 and 8 years. We don't know how long, at least 5, maximum 8. And it was so bad, it had gone up into my jaw, and my body had put a cyst around it to protect me from this really bad infection. So 2 days later, I had that surgically removed. And in that process, well, first of all, they tried to be like, oh, just redo the root canal. Let's keep it in there. And this opened me up to, you know, root canals. And there's a great documentary for your listeners. It's called Root Cause. And it goes into this, you could call it a conspiracy, but this thing around, this is the only body part that we would ever keep in the body if it was, you know, medically deceased, right? A dead tooth.
Right, exactly.
Completely unnatural. Yeah. And so I learned a lot about this, but in this process, of course, what did they do? Start trying to shove the antibiotics onto me. You know, you have this infection. We're going to cut you open. You know, you have a history of MRSA, blah, 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 blah. And I just really quickly, I just shut it down. And I told my naturopath dentist, I was like, listen, we're only going to have this conversation once. I'm not taking your drugs. I'm not doing the thing. I don't need it. I'm going to take bee propolis and oregano oil. And what else did I take? Zinc, elderberry. I just put together a cocktail of, you know, herbs and natural things. And I'm going to take these and I'm going to be fine. And I got the opportunity through advocating through this to do my own plasma. And so basically they drew my blood beforehand, turned it into plasma, and then injected it into the wound and sewed it shut. Wow. And it was the most powerful experience because here I've been through multiple surgeries, multiple issues in my life. And this time with no antibiotics and with no Western medicine, other than obviously, you know, the surgery to get the tooth out, I healed what would have been a 6-month time frame. I healed in a month. I went back for my 1 month like checkup, and the dentist was like, I can't even believe this. Like, you're healed. Your bone is already grafting on its own. And mind you, they're like, we need to give you a bone graft, and we need to like, you know, put these implants in and drill into your jaw with this metal implant. And I was like, no. We're not going to be doing any of that. I'm going to grow back my tooth someday.
So how did you manage doing the plasma injection? Like, was it from a separate practitioner that you had it brought, or did that dentist do it? Were they?
Yeah. So I actually had to go to a surgeon because of, you know, what was going on. The dentist could not do this. And so I went to an oral surgeon. Right. And I think I honestly, God, you know, divinely aligned. I got really lucky. Though he did really try to push the antibiotics on me. He was doing this new thing with this plasma. And so they actually did it in-house right there at the oral surgeon. Got it. And so if any of your listeners ever have a chance to do that, I would highly recommend it. And it just goes to show, like, our bodies have everything we need to heal ourselves. You know, a drug or a medication outside of me is not comparable to the natural innate intelligence of my body. And so, yeah, I got to go through that experience. And I have this video of me like 72 hours post-op, and I'm all chipmunked and I'm like smiling and I'm like, guys, no pain meds. I didn't use anything but CBD oil, no antibiotics. Like, look at this. I can open my jaw. It was so affirming. And it's so great because that was okay, I can do this. You know, I don't need their fear. I don't need their medicines. I don't need their drugs, their pharmaceuticals. And it just really healed something in me. And I'm so grateful for the miscarriage experience, because had that not happened, I would not have had that strength and that resolve to be like, I've heard that you're going to die before. I'm not going down that route. Like, I've spent the last, 2 years getting your pharmaceuticals out of my system. I'm certainly not putting them back in. So just want to drive home here, and I'll give it back to you if you want to talk about a couple other examples. But, if you're listening to this, like, your body is perfect. Like, it is not stupid, dumb, and sick and failing. It is perfect. It is the most divine technology there is, and it knows what you need. And nature has everything that we need. Oregano oil is like my go-to, and bee propolis is, I don't know the exact process, but it's made from bee resin. And elderberry and zinc and these different things that naturally support your body to do what it already knows how to do. So definitely trust in yourself and trust in your body, and know that no amount of fear mongering, right, like can take away the innate wisdom that God has given us, because that sovereignty of the soul and of the beings that we are, that is ours, and we only lose it, so we perceive, when we give it away. And we give it away systems, that are, I like when people say the sick care system, not the healthcare system, because it is literally a business that thrives when you're sick. And that already is not a great model for giving your health to someone.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. We have, my husband does Chinese medicine. So in our clinic, when people are going in for oral, things, we have a number of herbal we call it antibio-botanical formulas that are basically like herbal antibiotics that they can take as an option. And then, of course, some different applications that can go topically to help heal the area. And then our signature product, Yin-care, we used to have the oral care version, which is like, basically an extraction of herbs. It's a essential oil based and a water based extraction of 14 different herbs. And they turned it into a mouthwash, interestingly, because they had like water runoff from the extraction at the factory in China. And all of the factory workers had improved dental work because they were sipping off the water. And so then they decided they would create this mouthwash that was, at the 10% dilution, which is sort of like this magical dilution of our formula. And it's like the number one selling oral mouthwash in China, and all of China, mainland China, which is hilarious. But sadly, we couldn't get it in the last time because during all of this crazy COVID nonsense, the politics between our countries were making it really challenging for us to get it back in. So when we place our next order, we're hoping we'll be able to get some of that back in. But anyway.
I love that. And, obviously this, and I'm sure many of your listeners know this, but they say like, oh, everything starts in the gut, but like, what's feeding the gut? It's our mouths.
Exactly.
And I cannot recommend that root cause documentary enough, because they go into this, what is going on, and how, as we know now, like what I learned, I didn't know, because no doctor ever told me this, like every tooth is connected to a meridian, is connected to an organ. And it's very fascinating, because this side of my body, this is the tooth, and this was the ovary, and everything with my miscarriage. And so here's this cyst on my tooth, here's this cyst on my ovary, and you can just see there was clearly something out of its natural state on this side of my body. And so I definitely think, even more so than it starts in the gut, I actually think it really starts in our mouth. This is where we speak, this is where we eat, this is where we're all, it's all right here. And so
exactly,
I wish it's really encouraging to see medicine starting to acknowledge the gut. And I think the next phase of this is going to be realizing that dental, oral and medical, like they're one and the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. Well, so did you have any other things that, like, you had mentioned that you were sort of post this terrible, horrible experience with the miscarriage, and then stepping out of the system, that you've been going through a lot of like taking on your health. And so your oral, situation was one thing. What else came up for you that was like part of your healing journey?
Yeah. So, it was interesting with this, because with this process, I kind of went through it, and maybe it just, I'm talking about external influences of family, because this next example is going to be a great example of that. But with my tooth, I just kind of like, it happened so fast, right? Like I found out and it was out 2 days later, and I you don't really tell people like, oh, I'm getting this cystic root canal removed. And they're like, are you taking the antibiotics? Like no one asked. And so I just kind of went through it. But this next example, which was probably, my tooth was February of last year. So about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And then in May-ish, so a little over a year ago, I broke my foot.
Oh my goodness.
So they say, I don't know, but because I didn't go to a doctor, right? And so I was actually in the middle of our RV journey around the country, and we were in Utah, and both of our bikes the metal part came down on the top of my foot, barefoot, right on kind of this, like, I don't remember what the name is, but I've got a pretty gnarly scar there, but it was so painful. And I had a wound that was bleeding for like 24 hours. It was absolutely swollen. I obviously did not walk to be honest, I think I didn't start full blown walking until about 10 weeks. But again, this happens, right? And everybody's like, you need to go see a doctor. You need x-rays. You might need surgery. Like all of these, like my family and those around me were, I think, more concerned. And when I would tell people, you can see it, right? I'm in a boot. What's wrong with your foot? Or I was on crutches for a while. And I would say, oh, bike fell on my foot. And people would ask, oh, so is it broken? What did the doctor say? And I'm like, well, I didn't go to a doctor. And when I tell you dozens of times, even just strangers, I said that, like the amount of projected fear that was put to me, like I was told, like, your foot's not going to regrow right. Like you're not going to walk normal. You could have nerve damage. Like this is your foot. Like it's, you can see these parts of this fear in the collective around like, I need a not me, but like this thought of I need a doctor to tell me that I'm okay.
Exactly.
And instead of listening to my body. And it's not what I really want to drive home here is the energetics of this journey are so important. Like if we are coming from F the system, F the doctors, I'm not going to be a part of that. Like if the energy is not aligned, our decisions are going to be clouded. Like we might potentially be making decisions out of that energy versus, I love doctors. They're there for a reason. They've forgotten what that reason is, right? But like I can trust my intuition and I can trust my body. And so because I'm making decisions from that frame of consciousness of I'm doing this because I trust myself, not because F the system and I don't trust the doctors, that's really important. But yeah, I literally we were in the middle of nowhere, Utah. I went to a thrift store and got some crutches, and I had an aunt that I was going to visit soon, and she had an extra boot, and that was it. And then around I just obviously elevated it. At the time I iced it. I've kind of got a different, maybe potential opinion about that now, but again, no ibuprofen, just CBD oil for pain. But I was using a lot of topical. I used St. John's and a poplar bud salve. My friend was an herbalist, so she made me some medicines. And so around the maybe like 2-month mark, now we were able to do a lot of research and figure out the spot. And this is like the specific spot on the top right center of your foot. And there's like a nerve and a tendon that runs through there. And we're pretty sure that is what I injured, if not, a sprain or a fracture. But it's a really intense injury. It takes 8 to 12 months to heal. It's definitely a really intense injury, and it can affect your walking if it doesn't heal right. And so I can understand why people were afraid. But again, there was no universe in which I was going into a radiation machine. Like I'm just not ever. And what I would tell people, and I want to offer this to your listeners because this was potent. We can sit there and we can say, oh, radiation and this and that and that. Like that's where I think conspiracy theory phrases come from, right? Is because we're not coming from a place of wisdom. Like we don't want to focus on what we're trying to tear down. We want to focus on what we're trying to build. We're not trying to take away the medical system. We're trying to build our ancient ancestral intuition and knowledge. And so what I would tell people, it polarized them. If there's nothing you can say to this, is when they would be putting their fear on me, you need to get an x-ray, you need to go see a doctor. I would literally just say, well, our ancestors didn't have x-rays. We didn't have x-rays before the last, I don't know how long it is, but what do we want to guess?
It's 40? Like it was the beginning of, it was early 1900s.
Okay, so 100 years. But even then,
Yeah.
how old are humans, right? Like,
Yeah.
we did not have x-rays before then. So what do you think they did? And it just, I would watch these veils kind of lift, and there's no rebuttal to that, right? Because
Yeah.
here we have thousands of years of human history. Like, we didn't have x-rays, right? We didn't
Right.
have these things. And so what are they going to tell me that I am not capable of healing myself?
Yeah.
And this was my first journey of treating this in a very profound shamanic way, where sickness and injury is all spiritual in origin. And so I, at this point, was very acutely aware that my right side was my masculine side. I was very acutely aware of, our feet being really connected to our life path. And this was a time where I was really being called into my mission and being called to step into things. And I was playing small. And so I could really see where, I was aware that they say when you break a bone, you break a curse. Also, when you break a bone, they actually grow back stronger than they were when before. And so I knew all these things now. So I was like, this is awesome. I'm here for this. It was excruciating. I cried for like 2 months straight in bed. It was so painful. But I treated it as an opportunity to really deepen in with my body, to lay there and be like, okay, I did kind of like Joe Dispenza style. I would do visualizations. And so I would literally visualize the pieces of my bone restructuring. And while really painful, it was really potent. And so to the 2-month mark, I actually make it back to where we had been living, where my naturopath, my Chinese medicine acupuncturist was. And I go to see him, I come in and my foot is still healing. And he does this like tuning fork test where he like puts a tuning fork in a certain spot. And apparently if it hurts and the tuning fork does a certain thing, it means it's broken. They can like show that there's a break in the bone. And of course he was like, yeah, your foot is so broken.
Oh my gosh.
He gave me Bone Set, which is like you're familiar with it. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just.
Well, was it like as a, cause there's topical and internal, did you
internal.
take? Okay.
Yeah, I took the herbs internal. And so between the Bone Set and the very intense visualization of, meditating and imagining this healing and all the natural things that I was doing, again, topical and internal, I was starting to walk at 10 weeks. And it doesn't matter if it wasn't broken or it was broken. This type of injury on this, I can kind of show people just so you can see it's a little, but it's literally right here.
Wow. Yeah.
You can see my scar. But this type of injury, minimum 6 months, like any type of foot injury.
Yeah.
I was walking in 10 weeks and I was full blown back to normal within 3 months. And so then it just shows you the power of the human mind, the power of the body. And
the herbs you took too. I mean, that's nature's bounty as well,
Yeah. Nature has everything we need.
Yeah, exactly. Another product that's really good to know, just for whoever's out there that may have an issue, but there's a product called Zhengu Shui. It's Zhen Gu Shui. Is it Shui? I think it is. Zhengu Shui. And that is you can get it as a spray or as a roll-on, and it actually penetrates down to the bone. So you have to apply it like multiple times to the skin, or sometimes you can put it, if you have it in a spray bottle, spray it onto a paper towel is what we have some of our patients do, and then put it on. And you have to spray it on several different layers, basically. It has to, and then you'll feel it going into the bone for healing and for pain relief. So that's actually a really amazing product for any athletic injuries or anything, big, minor or major, that are related to muscle or bone, because it does penetrate deep through the skin and it can go all the way to the bone. Anyway, it's a pretty cool product.
That's amazing. I want to add something to this, and I have a third and final example if you want to get into it.
Yeah, I do.
Add something to this pain topic, because I think it's really important. And I think there's a lot of power in rewiring some of this thinking that we have been programmed with around pain. We go to the doctor and we see these little scales with these little faces of like, what's your pain level? And it is absolutely wild how they are prescribing pain medication now.
Yeah.
And obviously in my journey through opiate addiction and, having lost loved ones to this and lived through this system and through prison and through recovery and things, I have really, really strong passions and opinions about what is happening. And it's encouraging to see some of the accountability that's being had against these companies, though they're not stopping prescribing it. But,
right.
Pain to me, I mean, it's just a signal, but I have found so much power. Like, you want to talk about reconnecting to your power and taking your medical sovereignty back and connecting to your intuition. Start to view pain as a blessing and start to view pain as an opportunity to alchemize energy. My foot injury, with this, I was just like, this is so cool. I'm healing myself and I can do this, I don't need these doctors. And then with my foot 6 months later, it was like a completely different transformation of realizing not only can I do this and I can heal myself, this also has blessings for me. If I work with this process, I can actually grow spiritually and I can use this physical pain to purge out other spiritual things. And so what I mean by that is, like with my foot, when the pain would get really intense, I would consciously choose to, lay down and go into that experience and use the process of physical pain as a means to alchemize emotional pain.
Yeah.
So I'm crying because my foot hurts right now, but really I'm crying because of all of the times in my life that I felt powerless, or all of the times in my life, that my power was quote unquote taken away from me. And so I was really able to use this experience as a much more emotional, and it was such a potent, I think to me, that was when my, shaman, I use that term loosely, but that was when that really activated in me, was realizing, I'm not just able to heal myself. Everything that's going on is physical and spiritual. And I'm using these physical events to spiritually heal.
Yeah.
And that over this last year has absolutely catapulted my, just everything to do with shamanism, which really just, is a fancy term for healing in the spiritual realms, right? Whatever that means to people. That's what it means to me. And so, something Z, you mentioned Z a lot, says is, healing, or sickness is a shamanic healing event. And it's so true. Anything that you're going through, as simple as a headache, as simple as, simple as a headache to as extreme as a broken foot, it is a shamanic healing. And we have the opportunity, and our ancestors knew this, to break curses, to release trauma, to come out of this stronger than we were when we went into it. So I just really want to tell listeners, like, these things are happening happening for you, not to you. And you can work with them. You can work with your body to find meaning in these, painful or uncomfortable experiences.
It's so true. I love that you brought that in, and it is something that most people aren't. It takes time, it does take more time to allow yourself to really make the space to go in there. So, but sometimes, right, we're gifted with an option, an opportunity, a challenge, if you will, that like we're so debilitated that we only are able to lay there, and so. Yes, you have options. You always have choice. This is what we're talking about, being your own sovereign, provider of care, right? You can take something for pain, but should you decide to go inward and look and reflect, and that seems crazy, like it seems unapproachable because we just really have been so disconnected from it. But there are different tools, there's different, like in the Earth Star Academy, like we go through a lot of different breathing techniques, self-sound healing techniques. I find that self-sound, creating vibrations within my body, actually helps to just sort of break up the tense and the sort of denser areas, so that it's easier to kind of go in. And once you have applied like your own sound, like, and when I say that, I mean like basically creating a sound like it looks really weird, but like, and my cat's staring at me now because she's like, she's always like, oh no, not this again. But but you do that for long enough, you do that for a good 5 minutes, you start to feel like the cells actually dispersing themselves and moving into different spaces and creating more space. And then you can drive your own conscious awareness into those spaces. It is super helpful if you do have an understanding of how the physical body is made up. So if you have a way to bring in a visualization, you don't have to, but it is helpful if you're dealing with something specifically in a particular, like if your foot, there's how many bones in the foot? Like a bazillion bones. Like
a lot.
if you at least have some basic understanding of it, it allows you to kind of drive your consciousness into that particular location. Or if you've got an issue with your liver or with, an organ or an organ system, you can go in, which is why, big fan of Earth Star Academy, because they go through, I actually have a background in biology, but it was like an awesome, not just a refresher, but an upgrade, because there were so many other things that Z adds to that curriculum. So if you are really serious about self-healing and going into that, figuring out what's the right, Earth Star Academy is not going to be the right choice for everybody. It just isn't. But, taking time to figure out how you learn about your own body so that you can make these wise health choices and you can bring in conscious awareness to bring in self-healing is really powerful. And now, that all being said, I do want to also put in there, now this wouldn't be something that I was curious. I actually wanted to know if I feel like you've probably heard of it before, but are you familiar with kratom, or some people call it kratom?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay. And so I was just curious because it's, binds to the opiate receptor sites. Like, was that like something that you were aware of, and then you consciously said, I don't want to use that, even though it's an herbal, thing? Or did you have thoughts about, I was just curious.
Yeah. I'll get to that. I do want to add something, I second what you're saying about Earth Star Academy. I've, been through that curriculum and doing that for, I don't even know what month it is, to be honest, but like 8 months now. But I want to add for listeners as well, and just really drive this home. Yes, the education piece is really important, and you don't need that. And what I mean by that is, I went through this experience with my tooth and my foot long before learning about these things. And so, that wisdom can be really helpful, and we definitely want to learn more. And deep down, your body, what you need. If we can get past the thinking mind, right, of the fear and what are people going to think and how am I going to look and how am I going to sound, and they're just really the program of, I don't know how to take care of myself. Exactly. Right? Like, we hear literally anything. I hear it all the time. Like, someone will say, I have a headache, or I don't feel good, and one of two things is said, right? Do you need some Tylenol, or do you need to go to a doctor? And it's like, what if, and this is what I do in my life, and I'd like to encourage your listeners, what if we start a new paradigm where instead we ask people, what is your body trying to communicate to you? Do you need more water? Right? Do you, is there something in the lighting in your environment that's causing these headaches? What chakras were that related to, et cetera? And so I just want to drive home before.
I love that. That's so good. It's so true. It's so true. So yeah, everybody, you have the power in you. Okay. I know I want you to answer the kratom question. And then after that, also, I want to get into like your journey with how you really started to trust your own intuition. So I'll let you address the kratom question first, but I don't want to forget that.
Yeah. And it actually leads into my third and final example. So it's perfect.
Okay,
and
cool.
Margaret, we're doing predictive programming, tuning into the field, because it's about my liver. But as far as the kratom, back when I first got clean and I was getting out of prison, this was almost a decade ago. And so it it existed, but it wasn't really what it is now. There was definitely a boom about maybe like 6 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so it never really entered my sphere. I maybe might have kind of like heard it. There was definitely Suboxone and I'm literally blanking on methadone and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, at the time, and this was just an opinion that I had at the time, I respect all paths. We
Mm-hmm.
all have different things that we need at different times. But for me, it was kind of an all or nothing. Like I needed to be clean and I needed to be sober and I needed to do it without anything. And so
I wasn't really talking about like that recovery part, but I didn't even think about that. I was more talking about like when you were having, with your foot. Like,
it never came up.
It never crossed your mind. Because that would be something that like we would probably, if someone in our clinic said, I'm dealing with this pain, I really can't deal with it, we would recommend probably using a small amount of probably the red kratom, but so I was just curious if that was, I love that you're able to go hardcore without anything, but I know not everybody can. So I wanted to just plant that seed too into the field of awareness that like, kratom is a great other option too, like for people, if you have to know how to dose it because you have to take it on a full stomach because it can make you quite sick if you don't. But anyway, that was what I meant.
Yeah, we missed each other on that one. No,
That's okay.
And I definitely, I agree with you. Everyone is at a different place and that's okay. I honor that completely. I'm a very intense person. I'm a very stubborn person. I'm a very strong-willed woman. I come from a long line of very strong-willed women. So I am like, no, I can do this. I mean, I was trying to walk at like 2 weeks and I would be like hobbling around and trying to put pressure. And my poor husband is like, the first couple of weeks, I couldn't even pull my own pants down. I couldn't get in the shower by myself.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Talk about like, surrender. That was really the lesson. It was both being taken care of and moving into my feminine. Like that was what came out of that was, breaking curses, healing myself, but really being in my feminine and receiving care from my husband. I had just been so masculine in our marriage for so long and God was like, sit down and be taken care of.
Wow.
But it just never came into my sphere. I've heard great things about it. I have a family member who overcame their opiate addiction by using kratom.
And so, interesting.
It's used a lot for people in recovery as well.
Yeah.
So all for whatever works for people. I'm just a very stubborn, like I can do this by myself.
You obviously can. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So your second point, question around intuition, at this point, okay, so I've like had this tooth experience and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I've had this foot experience of really starting to use these as shamanic healing and connecting the more spiritual side of what's happening because everything physical has a spiritual root. And so, getting really in tune with my body and with God and a month after ish my foot. So they're getting increasing and they're getting shorter time periods. I have my tooth, 3 months later, I have my foot, a month later, my liver starts acting up. And I guess on kind of like surface level, or maybe if we had like ever interacted with the Western medical system, they probably would have said it was like inflamed or I had an infection or who knows what fear mongering they would have done. You need blood tests, you need liver scans, like you might have cirrhosis. Like I can't say what they would have said, but I can, take some guesses.
For sure.
But again, I know that this is my masculine side, more specifically my father's side. My father, who's no longer with us, had a long journey with alcohol, as does much of that family line. And also the liver is associated to anger. And at this time in my journey, I was going through really powerful healing around, I guess what you could just call sacred rage, right? The feminine rage, the anger in my marriage of resentments that, from things we had gone through many, many years ago. So it was just, it all came up and I think just overloaded my liver and it very, very noticeably swelled up. It was really painful. I was very sickly and I was very acutely aware, something was going on here. And instead of, even rushing to natural methods. In this instance, I kind of came full spectrum of really trusting my intuition and just knowing everything physical is spiritual. And so if I can focus on the spiritual aspect, the emotional aspect, the energy and trauma aspect of what's going on, the ancestral aspect, I don't even need to physically do anything. I don't even need the herbs. And again,
Right.
this doesn't mean this is for every situation. It just was for me an activation and realizing, what if I don't actually need anything physically? I just spiritually. And so that was the kind of really, I think, third and final, like it came in these beautiful 3 incidents last year of really activating my shamanism and really activating that medicine woman in me and my ancestral wisdom around, I actually don't even need the herbs and things. Those can be great allies.
Yeah.
And I can do this on my own. All I need is me and God and intention. So that was completely, I did end up leaning on a couple of supports. I actually did, I think it was sulfur and milk thistle, just to kind of really sulfur to help kind of push some stuff out, and milk thistle. But in the initial first few weeks, I did it. It was a very, very spiritual process for me.
I love moving through the day, honoring all of who I am as a woman. That can be a challenge when imbalances such as damp heat, or toxic heat rear their ugly head vaginally, and issues such as yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and even HPV creep in. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. All the tools I may have in my repertoire to ground and center go out the window, and I feel myself coming slightly unglued, to say the least. Everything is so incredibly uncomfortable. But I was tired of finding product after product that completely obliterated all of a woman's microbiome, and honestly was worried for all the other strange but natural culinary items I was testing out inside my vaginal cavity. It seemed wrong to kill all the bacteria off and then work to build a healthy vaginal microbiome back up again. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin-care's herbal wash. Research at the universities in China showed at the Petri dish level that at a 10 to 12% dilution, Yin-care's herbal wash would lyse all yeast cells and other bacteria while still allowing lactobacilli to continue to proliferate. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. Its cooling properties not only cool the very upset sensitive tissues, but cools my head and allows me to come back into my body and ground into my life and purpose once again. If you've never used our wash and you plan to use it vaginally, be sure you purchase the combo pack that includes both the 180 ml bottle of Yin-care's herbal wash and the 100 ml vaginal applicator. We now sell the bottle in 2 sizes, 100 ml and 180 ml bottles. So head on over to yincare.com. That's YINCARE.com. And by the way, Yin-care's herbal wash feels excellent after some rather hot and heavy lovemaking, or even at a less sexier time, but incredibly important, postpartum. Yin-care's herbal wash is excellent for postpartum care to cool things off, while also offering antimicrobial and antibacterial properties. So get your hands on some Yin-care's herbal wash today. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin-care. I just want to interject something that came up for me when you were saying that, because I think that's super powerful for people to know that, like, one of the things that I heard that in a talk that was given, a woman was talking about, like, having been in the outback, I don't know, camping or hiking, and someone was injured and they needed a particular herb that would help this person to get back down the mountain. And that herb was unavailable. And so she basically went over to this other plant and asked it to take on the energy of the herb that they needed. And they gave it to the person, and within 10 minutes, they were able to get up and get down the mountain. Now, that the herb they gave the person was edible, but it was not anything related to what they needed. And so the frequency of plants and the frequencies that we can consciously tune into it is possible. I have done, gone into ceremony myself and had the experiences of tuning into frequencies of different flowers or different herbs that wanted to come into the field, and feeling them and just knowing how they resonate within the body. And so it is possible to call those in. It really is just about asking and getting curious and playing with this idea that it is possible. There's so many things that are out there that are possible that we just, are not inspired to do, And so I'll also add in a quote that we got from, I don't know if you had seen, we'd done a couple episodes on the Starfire Wisdom book that Lou Malore wrote and readings. But one of the quotes we had this week in our reading was, is for our meditations in the morning was, "This is a new day. Anything is possible. I choose to discover at least one new thing today in my life that will expand my known world into the unknown world."
That is, you can literally see it. My face hurts. I'm beaming right now because it's so true. And I love what you said about like calling in these essences, and this you can tell this is like my jam because I am a metaphysical minister now, which is really just a spiritual minister, non-denominational, like the reality in God, that's all that there is. But and so I live in this world. I'm currently doing my doctorates in metaphysical sciences, and just really understanding, that's no way, attempting to understand this, like, what is this? And what I've really been tuning into is, everything exists in that field, right? And so anything is accessible to us.
Exactly.
And I don't know why I'm getting this vision of like the Matrix movie, right? When Neo realizes, like, when you know that and you've embodied that and you understand that on a really profound level, on a soul level, on a subconscious level, on a cellular level, when that integration meets those different levels and layers of your being, you will realize, like, I can conjure up anything I need right now. I can call on the energy and the spirit. And that's exactly what I did. I literally, it was really intense. There was a little bit of fear, just so much was moving. It was so painful. And I just prayed, and I was like, God, like, I know that I know that there's something in this. I know that this is spiritual. And, we just had between me and my husband, a really powerful spiritual experience where I was in a dream, spiritually gifted a new liver from someone. And they literally told my husband, I've actually never shared this before, but my husband had a dream of an ascended master coming to see him. And they were like, I know your wife. I know she needs this. I'm actually in this timeline. I'm going to die tonight. And so I'm giving you the spiritual energy. Go give this to her. And I couldn't even, I wasn't even on the bed. I was on the couch, and I'm in pain. And he was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I've never done spiritual surgery before, but I have something to give you. And I was fine after that.
That is insane. That is awesome. Oh my God, that led in so well with what I just said, and then right into what he just did. That's so cool.
Yeah, wow. My husband is a powerful healer. He is a dream shaman, and so he works in the dream space, and also just a really potent physical healer. And in our union, we have obviously a very powerful connection, and so my field is open to him in ways it's never been open to anyone. And so of course, that's where this goes, right? The more and more you go into this work, and it's really potent, and it beautifully leads into where I'm at now, which I
want to talk about that. And I'm excited if you don't mind continuing on for a bit longer so we can get that. Okay, cool.
No, this is
share with us your preconception journey.
Yeah, so it has been okay, so I have my tooth in February, my foot in May, and my liver in like July-ish, maybe. Don't quote me on that. And so I just really go through all these activations. I'm really stepping into being a minister. There was a lot of death and rebirth around healing that word, healing the God wound. I enroll in school and all these different things. And so we come to September, and we decide, it's been at that point it had been 3 years, and we're ready. We're ready to really start calling in the soul of our daughter to come back. And we always knew she was coming back. And so we started our preconception journey. And going through that from this frame of medical sovereignty, from this frame of consciousness, it has been nothing short of one of the most beautiful journeys of my life. Like, to become, and I want to stress this with, all of the people listening, but especially women, you are already a mother, right? Like, I heard once, you're born with all of the eggs of any child you will have. They're always with you. And I've just been so profoundly impacted by that, and just really, really treating this time as becoming a mother, doing everything I can in my power to empower my body and its innate wisdom, and to connect with my womb. That's what led me to the womb temple where we met. And it's been beautiful. And I thought, like, oh, I need to, do all these things. And, there's not a lot out there, really great stuff about preconception, but I was like, oh, I need to, I need to start taking all these supplements and do all these things. And it's actually just been, no, I just need to, like, spiritually and consciously, connect to my body, and my body knows exactly what it needs to do. I have chosen to take some very, very natural, high quality supplements, just because I have done years of rigorous detoxing. And so my body is like, we need some mineral support.
Yeah, for sure.
We also can, mention in that, like, living in America, the soil is not the best, and food is. I actually just got back from Europe, right? And it was so interesting. I was there for 12 days, and the second that I got there and started eating the food, I was so intuitively aware that I was being way more nourished. My nails grew faster. My hair was shinier, and I stopped taking my prenatal supplements when I got there. In the 12 days, I think I only took them like once or twice. And as soon as we got home, our first meal at home of the produce here in Texas, we were like, that's not as nourishing. So, point being, listen to your body, listen to your geography. Like, we do live in a world that is not currently the Garden of Eden as it was intended to be.
Right.
It's a very intuitive process. Some days I feel like I need the nourishment. Some days I just don't feel like I need the nourishment. So it's been an interesting journey, because I came into this and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this all on my own. Or, I'm going to do this all natural. And it's just been every step of the way, like, how can I just listen to really my body, but more importantly, my child, right? Like, her soul already exists. The souls of my children already exist, and tuning into them and seeing what they need. It's been really beautiful. And so, yeah, we are just trying to be healthy, and more than anything, happy, and focusing on, like, the greatest medicine really is joy. Like, it really is love and being connected to God. And so I am elated to go through conception and birth. Naturally, I'm eating it all up. I'm learning about all these different things, and I don't know yet what that's going to look like. It's going to be very intuitively led. But I'm beyond excited to walk this journey now and know that I am, a very wise woman, and we all have our womb. We can do this. We don't need these medical systems to have healthy pregnancies, and to go through this process, because it's all within us. So
exactly. I was gonna ask you, what resources are your, like, do you have any go-to resources that you are using to help inform you? I've got a few in my mind, but I would like to hear from you what you like to use, or what you've been using to just get good information, or all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, at first I wasn't really using anything. I was like, I'm just like me, God, and this baby. Like, we got this. Like, we're just gonna, let this happen. And then, of course, there is this level of, knowledge that we need to have. And so I just recently, I'm sure you've heard of the Free Birth Society.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly what I was going to ask, because they have the complete guide to free birth, which I think is really a fantastic resource.
Yeah, I actually just got logged into that and I made a baby folder and added that to my bookmarks the other day. So that, and then there's a couple of books that were recommended to me. One's very well known. It's called Sacred Birthing. Do you know who that one's by?
I don't know Sacred Birthing. I was going to say Portal, which is another really good. Have you read Portal?
No, but I will write it down.
Yeah, Portal is excellent. It's by Yolanda Norris Clark. Okay. And she works with Emily Saldea of the Free Birth Society. So they do I did the Radical Birth Keepers training through Free Birth Society with both of them.
Cool. Yeah. So the Sacred Birthing book, it's literally called, even the cover is just like divine. It's called Sacred Birthing, Birthing a New Humanity. Nice. It is by, to be honest, I'm not seeing
that. That's okay. I can find it. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So people can see it.
So that book, everyone has recommended that book to me. And then another one that came through recently that should be arriving in the next coming days is called Fertile. It's like a yellow kind of cover, and it's all about, preconception for conscious parenting. There's endless great things. There's a lot of really great podcasts out there. But to be really honest, I've just really deeply been like, I got this. Yeah. It's so when you really tune into your intuition, man, woman, it doesn't matter, parenting, health, tooth, foot, it doesn't matter what it is. Thousands of years ago, they didn't have preconception books. They didn't have x-rays. They didn't have these things. And yes, there was some, oral tradition and ancestral wisdom, but I really am a champion of self-sovereignty, truly, and listening to your body. And if your body says, I need supplements, awesome. If your body, or even just you want to read the books, read 30 pregnancy books. That's fantastic. Totally. But do what works for you. And just really, really trust that intuition, because the more and more and more I've cultivated that, and I've gone through all these different schools and programs and Earth Star and, metaphysics and things, I've really just realized we can connect directly to God at any time, and everything that we need is right there. And that to me is the ultimate form of intuition, even beyond connecting to our wombs, is connecting to our creator, and being willing and open to receive what's coming through. And if that was, you need some supplements or you need this course or this book, I'm all for it. Just really, really trusting that internal.
I love that. That's so good. And the other thing that I think is really important too is there's so many resources. Again, that coming back to your own intuition and knowing when too much information is not need. You don't need all of it. You just take it in the little bite-sized pieces that you can digest, and what's going to be right for you along your journey. And know that the most important thing I can say, having had 3 kids and gone through motherhood with my kids out of the house to all new moms, is that you do have that innate wisdom in you. We all know we all know how to be a mother and how to do this. And the birthing process itself is a physical event that opens the portal, the portals to your own way to truly step into that. And so it is such an important time, and being able to do that and navigate that without the Western industrial medical complex is totally possible. And there are resources out there to finding your way, and it is a wonderful and beautiful path that eliminates the continuation of trauma that's inflicted upon our generations. It is truly in my mind, the most important thing that we can do today is to to heal the arena of birth and how we're doing it. So what you're doing in this conscious preconception phase is so beautiful. Just taking that loving time for yourself, with your husband, and connecting with the baby spirit. And there's all different kinds of ways that people do this too, just to plant that seed that, like, if this is a new concept to a lot of people, to connect with the baby spirit before it comes into the body, and before, that beautiful baby is actually building. Once the conception happens, the baby itself starts building its own body, which is just unbelievable to me. So which is like so phenomenal, right? We're talking about like how amazing our bodies are and how we can self-heal. Like sometimes I look down and I'm like, oh my God, I created this thing. Like, it's not, yes, there was the spark of love between my parents, but like I created this avatar that I'm in. Like, how cool is that? Like, wow, I just love all of it, even as crazy as it is sometimes that I, fight with my body about different things,
We're miracles. We are walking miracles. And I love you brought it perfectly home to, I think you were wanting to, talk about what I do in this world. And
yes, I do.
You touched on so perfectly what my biggest piece of advice would be, right? Because I think a lot of times, and it's not our fault, right? It's I believe, a result of the Western medical system. But a lot of times we think like supplements, books, courses, things. I need all of these things outside of myself. Mm-hmm. And really what we've found is the preconception journey. It's all within. And most importantly, it's spiritual. And even more important than that, actually, it's between you and your partner. Or if there's ways to have babies without partners. But for us, it has really been getting this. I don't know. I see he's over there somewhere, and I'm just like pointing wherever he is in our house over there. But getting us aligned and getting us. Oh yes, that's
yeah. This is your website, so I just wanted everybody to see that too.
Yeah, if you click on our story right there, the second tab, and scroll down, you'll see some pictures of us from the beginning to now.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And,
our love story. Oh, cool.
Like getting to a place where, for example, we just had the opportunity to make connections with Soul Family in Portugal, and they are expecting. And we had the opportunity to go to their house after the event and see they are literally creating a birthing temple in their home. And just, they're doing it at home, just them, and just like seeing this process and how resolute she was in knowing all I need is me, my baby, my body, God, and my husband. That's all that I need. Mm-hmm. And just really getting to a place for us, it has just been where we can fully trust ourselves, where we can fully, be in union and communion to receive what is here for us. So we are the love people. This is we have a podcast.
Yeah, I want to show people the podcast, and then a lot of this has also led in, and all your episodes I've noticed are here. They're also on Spotify, right? It goes, Spotify.
Yeah,
is it on
everywhere?
Okay, cool.
This isn't all the episodes. These are just highlighted episodes. But
great.
Scroll down a little bit. They're in sections, and so we were just trying to kind of guide people if they were looking for certain things. But we talk all about love and consciousness, obviously, but relationships, conscious relating, really trying to shift this paradigm that's romantic to you are in a conscious relationship with everything. And so this has been going for almost 2 years now. We're about to fully relaunch this brand. I don't love the word brand, but this mission, it's getting an entirely new vision and logo and website. And now that we're as well,
cool.
We just recently opened that coaching container. So we already
so tell us about the coaching that you offer.
Yeah, so we just recently started this up. We offer this for anyone. So it's right here on the page you're on. It can be one-on-one. It can be two-on-one. It can be two-on-two. We work with singles. We work with people who are in relationships. We can work with couples. We can work with family members. Conscious relating is a very intentional way of engaging in, we have this model we use in this proverb, I call it, it's awaken, heal, love. Awaken first. We need to bring conscious awareness to whatever it is. Then we need to heal it, and healing truly and on these really deep spiritual levels, getting people out of this loop of chasing healing, and then unconditional love, and really realizing none of us were taught how to love. And so how do we bring this new way of love forward, of doing this, with God, with intention? And so, we've been working with clients it's been almost 2 months now. And this has been in the birth for years. We've been asked to do this for quite some time, and we just were on the road, and really deep in our processes. But it's been really fantastic to be able to support people in this way and provide these pieces.
That's so cool. I love it. And I did put at the bottom of the screen there your website, which is lovingconsciously.com. And then I want other people to also see, let's put up your social media so that they can, if they want to be in touch with you, we've got Instagram. There's at loving.consciously, and then at Ameris Loves You are the two Instagram accounts that you've got, right?
Yeah. So the one on the left is us. And there's a podcast one that's linked there as well. And then the one on the right is my personal one. And mine has me and my ministry videos and Loving Consciously. So it's an amalgamation of everything. But that's us.
That is so wonderful. I love it. Wow. This has just been so cool, Ameris. I just am so, I was so excited when I saw everything we were going to be talking about today, that you were bringing forward. We had, traded some emails about what I was looking for and everything. But when I saw how deeply embodying you were in the sovereignty portion of this, it made me so excited, because that's clearly, hopefully you got that. That's such a deep part of who I am as well. I'm actually part of I don't know if you know, the American State Nationals too. So I'm the Wyoming coordinator for the government, portion of sovereignty, bringing people back to the land and soil jurisdiction and all this kind of stuff. So I'm involved in it in multiple, strata. I would say government and also healthcare on the administrative level, really. And you were so kind to say that it's not about being angry or bitter about the system. I think I'll just add one piece to that. And that is that, yes, I totally agree with you. It doesn't serve anybody to be angry or bitter about it. The easiest thing, it is not a sustainable system. It never was created to be in honor of our individual sovereignty. It never was. It was created to be in honor of the professional individuals that were within it. It is that historically, if you go back and you do your history reading, which I have, the systems that were put in place were only to support the medical profession itself, and it was a patriarchal, system, systematically taking women out of that field. And so, being that it is not a sustainable system, the easiest thing to break a broken system down is to just step out of it. It's so easy. All you do is just take your own sovereignty back and learning to walk. And like you said, learning to walk in that fear and to find your own intuition and empower yourself to see, oh my gosh, it's not so scary. I can do this. I am doing this. I am made to do this. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you're so spot on. I really, really profoundly believe, where we put our energy and attention, that's what we feed, right? And if we keep giving our energy and attention to the system, there's a healthy balance. And there are people who live, who their calling is to be in this disclosure space and is to be in some of these legal realms. And that's fantastic. But for the general public, like you said it perfectly, stepping out of that system, stepping into our sovereignty, it's so important. And that the power of that change is really profound. When we it can't exist without us. And so let's just focus on what we want to create, and let's just focus on taking that sovereignty back and remembering that we are ancient and wise and multidimensional divine creator beings that have the capacity to heal ourselves. We have the capacity to, come back home to truth, come back home to love. And we do it together. And, as long as we stay in these energetics of being angry about the system or fighting the system, it's diverting that energy. And so for me personally, I found it really empowering to just focus on what I am creating and encouraging others to do the same. And it starts with us, but most importantly for listeners, like, you have the profound power with your consciousness to shift this narrative. When just even like you're in the grocery store, oh, hey, how you doing today? And the clerk says, oh, I have a headache. Like, just very gently. You obviously don't want to fire hose people, and use discernment, use intuition, with your family, with your friends, with anybody. Like, start to just kind of gently plant these seeds and be like, have you considered that your body might be communicating something to you? Just offering loving and gentle alternatives is.
I love that.
Really
loving and gentle.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, I would really love, Ameris, if you would come back through your preconception / conception journey and share with us where you're at and give us some updates, so that we can see what that's been like for you. And because that is such a powerful container to be in. And I can see that as you're going to go through that, you're going to be making choices that some of it you're going to want to keep, to yourself and not like get everybody else's, gunk on you as far as like their ideas of what you should or shouldn't be doing, and helping the audience here see someone navigating that in a powerful way would be really inspirational. So I'd love it if you'd consider that.
Yeah, I absolutely would. It's interesting, when I first really opened myself up last fall to this journey, I was like, I'm not gonna tell anyone I'm pregnant. I'm just gonna like close it down. And actually, even just through Portugal, our daughter came through so strongly to both of us in many ways, and deep womb healing happened. And just the last 6 months has just been like full-time womb healing and really preparing for motherhood. And in that, just these last few weeks, I was thinking about this actually just maybe yesterday. I was like, I think that I'm healed enough now, and I'm confident enough now that like I could walk this journey around others and with in the world, but not of the world, right? And not have that influence me. And so I'd love to come back on whenever that time comes. And
for sure.
We are so surrendered. And it's interesting. I'll leave with this, like, when we say preconception, this is a journey. They say, I've heard different things, but like the men should also have a pre 9 months before conception of like preparing, their bodies and their sperm, because that is what is, informing the process of like conception. Exactly. And so it's not even, maybe there's like a preconception and then like active conception. So I think we're actually like this next month or so really moving into that like active conception period. But for us, preconception is it's spiritual, it's mental, it's physical. There's so many ways you can have fun with this. So I can't wait to see what comes of this next journey. But thank you for
so cool. Oh, thank you so much, Ameris. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, you're lovely. And I just love what you're doing here. And, just leaving your listeners with so much love and reminder that we can heal anything. You have the full power and wisdom of the creator of God inside of you. And you can tap into that at any time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you all so much for listening. Having Ameris share her story was so inspirational. I knew it was going to be fabulous interviewing her, as our mutual deep knowing as to the power of the sovereign really fires both of us up. I hope that you'll follow her on social media. Be sure to check the links out in the show notes to complete our medical incident report form, as well as our sovereign health choice report form. We want to know either what happened to you in the Western medical industrial system or how you powerfully stepped out of it. I'm on a mission to help you remember and reignite your own intuition through your womb wisdom so that you're ready, willing, and able to step fully and completely into your sovereign health creation journey. Shows launch every 2 weeks wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to head on over to Yin-care.com and click on signing up for our womb empowerments, as well as check out our womb wisdom store, upcoming courses, and even the services that I offer. And of course, you can always find us on Instagram at yin_care or on X, Facebook, and YouTube at Yin-care. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, and this has been the Yin-care podcast. Until next time, honor yourself, celebrate your strength, and empower your transformation with your Yin-care.